You might be losing the woman you love and still believe everything's under control. Not because she said something, but because she doesn't say anything anymore. Female disconnection begins like this, in silence, in the details, in the gestures that stop happening. Many men, out of ignorance or pride, only realize she's gone when she's already not coming back. And the worst part, she gave signs, micro signs, subtle but clear, and you probably ignored every single one. We live in an era where men are trained to react too late. He learns how to chase when he should have learned how to stand firm. What most men don't understand is that a woman pulls away emotionally long before she ever leaves physically. And when that happens, rehearsed speeches or desperate gifts won't help. What she truly wants, even if she can't say it, is to reconnect with the man who once made her feel safe, desired, and inspired, not the one who became an emotional burden. In this video, we're going to speak clearly about the 6 micro signs that show you're about to lose her. But not just that. This isn't a place for victimhood or emotional whining. This is for men who want to reclaim their masculine presence, master their emotional intelligence, and act with emotional maturity. Because losing a woman hurts. But losing your center? That's devastating. And getting it back starts with seeing what you've been blind to until now. And yes, there's still hope. Throughout this conversation, you'll also discover practical ways to reverse this dark phase in your relationship. If there's still something real between you, if she's still physically there, even if emotionally distant, then there might still be time. Time to restore the connection, rebuild the respect, and become again the man she once chose. But that starts now, with you paying attention. Because as subtle as it may seem, the first sign she's slipping away always appears in her eyes. First sign, she avoids direct eye contact. Some men think the relationship is solid just because she's still physically present. But the most dangerous absence is the one in her eyes. When a woman stops holding direct eye contact, that lingering gaze full of attention and connection, it's not shyness. It's emotional withdrawal. A woman's gaze is one of the most intimate forms of inner validation. When it becomes vague, distracted, or constantly averted, it signals the beginning of a silent emotional detachment. And many men, stuck in routine and lacking masculine presence, don't notice it in time. Female psychology is subtle, but it never lies. What her eyes avoid, her heart is already rejecting. In healthy relationships, eye contact flows naturally. It's fluid, even unconscious. But when she starts looking at her phone more than at your face, or her attention drifts to anything but you, the signal is there. And it's not just a lack of interest, it's a lack of inner safety, something she may have once felt with you. A man with emotional maturity senses these shifts without needing to ask. He feels them, and more importantly, he acts. But action doesn't mean drama or anxious confrontation. It means emotional leadership. A man aligned with conscious masculinity knows that the quality of connection begins with his own direct communication. If she's no longer holding your gaze, maybe you've stopped holding your own center. Try to regain that gaze with small, authentic gestures. A light-hearted invitation like in the early days. A genuine compliment given at the right moment. A comfortable silence where presence says more than words. These little gestures carry more weight than 1,000 needy questions. Because a woman connects with what she feels, not just with what she hears. What triggers emotional attraction in her is the feeling of being in front of a man who knows who he is. A man with self-knowledge, who doesn't depend on her gaze to validate his identity. That's when the dynamic shifts. Not because you're trying to get her back, but because you've become magnetic again by being whole in yourself. And here's the secret most men never see. She doesn't want to be convinced to stay. She wants to be inspired, not to leave. The man who masters his gestures, his eyes, his energy, naturally awakens the nonverbal codes she recognizes as inner safety. And ironically, it all begins the moment you realize she no longer looks at you the same way. Second sign, conversations start to feel like a chore. There comes a quiet moment when a couple's dialogue stops feeling alive and starts to feel like protocol. She responds, but doesn't engage. She laughs, but without spirit. She's there, but doesn't open up. And the curious part? Many men mistake this for stress, PMS, or just a rough patch. But it's not. It's a clear sign that the relational awareness between you is fading. When conversation starts to feel like effort, it means the connection is no longer emotionally nourishing for her. And if you don't notice that early on, the ending usually catches you by surprise. The silence growing between two people isn't always about a lack of things to say. Often, it's a lack of strategic vulnerability. She might still listen to you, but no longer feels safe revealing herself. And that doesn't happen overnight. Many times, it's because you, as a man, slipped into emotional autopilot, stopped showing authenticity and masculine presence while listening. And yes, she feels that. She won't warn you with words. She'll simply close off subtly day after day. If she used to share her dreams, her fears, the silly details of her day, and now only says, "I'm fine," or speaks strictly about logistics, pay attention. You're in a danger zone. And it's not about forcing intimacy back. It's about reclaiming the lost ground with direct, emotionally intelligent communication. Simple, honest questions can reopen locked doors. What's been making you feel alive lately? Is there something you've been wanting to tell me, but haven't felt safe to share? Small questions, powerful impact. A man with emotional intelligence understands that listening means more than hearing words. It's reading the emotional temperature of the woman beside him. And when he senses the conversation cooling, he doesn't play dumb. He becomes more present. That might mean putting the phone away during dinner, saying something spontaneous, or stepping out of functional relationship mode and back into the art of emotional enchantment. Because women don't bond through comfort, they bond through emotional vibration. When conversation becomes a chore, it means her emotional core is already signaling distress. And often, a shift in posture is all it takes to reignite the spark of curiosity and connection. But only if you stop acting like the official boyfriend and start being the man who inspires the unexpected. That's where the game of emotional attraction is either won or quietly lost. Third sign, she starts avoiding subtle, spontaneous touches. When a woman begins to avoid the more subtle forms of physical contact, like holding hands on the couch, a gentle kiss on the forehead in the morning, or that random long hug, she's not just tired, she's emotionally disconnected. Emotional attraction is expressed far more in what's unspoken than in what's said. And when touch is avoided, that's a silent scream that something has broken inside her. It's not just a lack of physical desire, it's a lack of emotional harmony. What many fail to realize is that spontaneous touch is a reflection of the inner safety she feels around you. When that safety fades, her body pulls back. She might still kiss you, sleep beside you, even say, "I love you." But her gestures tell a different story. Female psychology rarely confronts directly. She withdraws quietly, through small, almost invisible signs. And it takes a man with a sharpened awareness to read those subtle signals. A man with self-knowledge and emotional leadership doesn't need to ask, "Why don't you kiss me like before?" He observes. He understands the touch disappeared because the energy between them became artificial. And the first step isn't to demand affection, it's to restore the masculine presence. That makes room for physical closeness to arise naturally again. That might look like turning off distractions, admiring her again with your eyes, breaking the routine with genuine surprises, not gifts, but shared moments. She needs to feel like she's in front of a man who is alive, emotionally whole. Someone who connects for the joy of giving, not out of emotional hunger. Touch without purpose might seem sweet, but for the conscious masculine, it's symbolic, it's emotional territory. And when she avoids that touch, it means she's quietly closing the door to that territory. That soft contact that once felt so natural has now become a chore, even uncomfortable. And when that happens, the risk of losing her is already in motion. So pay close attention to her body language. Don't force closeness. Reignite the bond with emotional responsibility by showing up without invading. The female body responds to the emotional energy you radiate. And when she feels emotionally neglected, the physical connection is the first to fade. But if there's physical distance, there may still be a way back. If you know what her silence is really trying to say. Fourth sign. She starts comparing you to other men. Few things are more uncomfortable, and at the same time more revealing, than when a woman begins making subtle comments comparing you to other men. It might sound innocent. "Wow, my friend's husband always plans little surprises." Or, "That guy at work is so thoughtful with his wife." But behind those words is an unspoken message. You've stopped being her reference point. The power dynamic begins to shift when a man loses the ability to inspire silent admiration. And that erosion starts from the inside out, without you even realizing it. That kind of comparison doesn't come out of nowhere. It starts when she begins noticing repeated flaws, or a lack of emotional growth in the man by her side. It's often an unconscious way of saying, "I'm watching, and I'm not impressed." And this is where conscious masculinity becomes essential. Because the man who truly understands himself doesn't compete with imagined rivals. He knows he doesn't need to be perfect, but he must be committed to his own evolution. Your internal validation must always be stronger than your fear of comparison. Responding with jealousy, sarcasm, or self-pity, that only proves what she's already beginning to question: your emotional maturity. The emotionally intelligent man doesn't compete, he expands. He listens without defensiveness, identifies where he can improve, and acts quietly, but decisively. Not to prove something to her, but to stay true to himself. That could mean taking better care of your body, restarting your personal goals, correcting lazy habits, or becoming a man who's interesting again for real. A truly interesting man never begs for attention. He becomes the emotional center around which things reorganize. Want a practical example? If she compares you to a man who reads, go beyond, read deeply, and bring insights into the relationship. Pick up Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, or Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. The point isn't to mimic someone else. It's to take responsibility for your own stagnation and do something about it. Because when she's comparing you, emotionally, she's already torn between what she still feels and what she's beginning to crave again, even if somewhere else. The man who accepts being compared and does nothing has already lost. But the one who listens without drama and responds with emotional authenticity still has a real chance to flip the script. Because women test how much you value yourself. And when she senses you care more about being admired by her than by yourself, the emotional disconnection speeds up, until one day you realize it wasn't the comparison that hurt. It was the reflection of how much you stopped growing. Fifth sign, she stops making plans with you. In the beginning of any healthy relationship, there's a certain excitement in talking about the future. A trip, a move, a shared dream. When that fades and she starts avoiding those kinds of conversations, or gives you vague answers like, I don't know yet, or we'll see, it's a clear sign that her emotional projection is pulling away from you. A woman who stops including you in her plans isn't just busy. She's quietly preparing her exit. And if you don't see it in time, you might wake up too late to do anything about it. Female psychology rarely ends things with noise. Emotional withdrawal happens symbolically first. When she no longer sees you as part of something she's building, the bond begins to dissolve from within. And this is where masculine presence becomes critical, not as pressure or control, but as an emotional anchor that invites her into a future. A man who's emotionally checked out, always complaining about life or dodging adult responsibilities, will naturally lose his place in her imagination. And what no longer exists in her imagination won't last in her heart. If she used to ask about travel, shared plans, or even finances, and now handles everything loosely, like you're just a temporary piece of her present, consider that a red alert. A man with relational awareness picks up on these shifts, and instead of pressuring her, he leads. He suggests, invites, takes initiative, not out of desperation, but from a place of emotional leadership. This could be something small, like a weekend getaway, or bigger, like starting a new project together, facing a challenge as a team, or simply dreaming out loud again. Because when there are no plans, the soul of the relationship starts to drift. But how do you reverse that slow fade? The first step is to become the man she respects, not just the one she likes. That means restoring your inner validation, aligning your life with a clear purpose, and quitting the emotional drift. A man with inner security becomes worthy of walking beside someone, not because of grand gestures, but through steady, grounded posture. If she stopped including you in the future, it might be because you stopped planning your own. Reignite your goals, reclaim your independence, evolve. Not for her, but for you. Then, once your energy has shifted, offer something new, unexpected, and symbolic. Plan a short trip to a place you've never been together. Do something that signals to her that the man beside her is visionary again. She doesn't want control, she wants inspiration. And that only comes from a man with self-knowledge, authenticity, and enough emotional maturity to lead without pulling. To show her there's still a path worth walking, if she chooses to walk it with you. Sixth sign. She becomes irritated by everything you do. When even the smallest things start to annoy her. The way you talk, how you walk, the jokes that used to make her laugh. Something deeper is already off track. This subtle irritation, growing in micro-expressions, is one of the most dangerous subtle signs. It's not PMS. It's not just a bad day. It's a break in emotional harmony. The woman who once looked at you with warmth now seems triggered by your very presence. That doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of an invisible buildup. A sum of emotional neglects ignored over time. Most men dismiss this behavior, thinking, she's just stressed from work, or it'll pass. But no. What's happening is a shift in perception. She now sees you as someone who drains her energy rather than replenishes it. And for a woman, that's fatal. Emotional attraction doesn't die from a lack of passion. It dies under the weight of accumulated resentment. An impatient sigh, an eye roll, a dry tone. These are all messages that scream, you're no longer reaching me. Most men respond in the worst ways. They get defensive, or try to overcompensate by being overly sweet. Neither works. Female impatience requires a different kind of response, emotional control. A man rooted in conscious masculinity doesn't take it personally. He doesn't get reactive. He observes. He breathes. He understands that her irritation often reflects his own emotional absence. And to rebuild that bond, he must reappear, not as a victim, but as a whole man. How to do that in practice? First, stop trying to please her at all costs. That only makes things worse. Be steady, present, consistent. Reclaim your inner space through self-awareness. An emotionally grounded man doesn't need to ask, is everything okay? He reads the room. And from that reading, he begins to shift the energy through small, deliberate actions. Listening without interrupting, taking quiet responsibility, showing genuine, not automatic interest. That turns tension into curiosity, coldness into receptivity, irritation into reconnection. And finally, pull back emotionally for a while. Not as punishment, but as a repositioning. Give her space to feel your absence in a healthy way. An absence that doesn't create fear, but sparks reflection. A man who knows how to step away with dignity shows he's not enslaved by chaos. He's committed to emotional responsibility. And when she senses that you've returned to being the man she respects, calm, whole, and emotionally clean, her affection will return by choice, not by force. The truth is simple, even if it's painful. You don't need to be cheated on to be left. A woman starts leaving you the moment she stops admiring your posture, stops trusting your word, and stops seeing value in your presence. And the worst part, it never happens overnight. It begins with micro signs, subtle, nearly invisible, but loud enough to tell the whole story. If you ignore those signs, you don't just lose her, you lose yourself. The man who doesn't realize he's being erased from someone's life eventually becomes a stranger in his own. But hear me clearly, there's still time. Not time to chase. Not time to beg. Time to realign. The relationship can be saved, but only if the man trying to save it is willing to rebuild himself first. It's not about winning her back. It's about winning your center back. And that's exactly why, in this video, along with the hidden signs, I gave you real, practical, and powerful ways to turn this around. The power is in you, but only if you're man enough to own it. So let me ask you something real. How many of these signs have you seen in her and ignored? And more importantly, what are you going to do with this knowledge now? Keep waiting for the worst? Or act like a man with self-awareness, inner strength, and the will to take the wheel of his relationship again? Drop this in the comments. I saw the signs. Now I'll act. That one line can remind you. You're not a victim, you're responsible. And that changes everything. If you stayed with me until now, thank you, sincerely. It's rare to find men willing to face hard truths with courage and dignity. If this helped you, like the video, send it to a friend who might need it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, you'll keep learning how to become the kind of man that neither time nor she can ever forget.